Welcome back to the Convo Couch. This is Pasta Jardula. And Johnny Sue is still over there spinning on those ones and twos because that's what he knows how to do. Thank you very much for joining in, ladies and gentlemen. We are back safe away from Washington, D.C. Not that it was that crazy. It was pretty much peaceful until all shit broke loose at one spot, but we were there. We were in safety mode, but we were grabbing Johnny and saying, come back. But that's just one part of the whole situation, fam. I don't know. What are your thoughts today, and how are you feeling on this beautiful Sunday? It's beautiful here in Boca Raton, by the way, but I don't know how you're feeling. I'm quite scared about the political climate ahead of us.
Good morning, Sunday morning, everybody. So I feel extremely saddened by the vast majority of the progressives who have become liberals in a matter of weeks. I mean, Jimmy Dore started with the whole force the vote unmasking, where a lot of people who still needed to be convinced that AOC and the squad were full of crap finally realized, like, okay, they all voted for Pelosi. They won't bring Medicare for all to a floor vote. They're voting for the stimulus. They voted for the CARES Act, all these things that we have been saying. More and more people realize that. And then the pundits, the supposed progressive pundits who are more of the boutique left, the elitist left, the left that thinks that, only DSA can organize, force the vote. But when Jimmy Dore does it, they shoot it down. That part of the left, that unmasked too with a lot of these YouTubers and neo-progressives. Now we're going into the whole what happened on January 6th, and we were there, and we had a completely different perspective than what the mainstream media put out. We also know that seeing subsequent videos that people were let in 100% fully and told, hey, you got about an hour to be here, and it was like a museum tour. And there's a reason these things happen. And we know that there are drafts of legislation that were put in place before this. We know that the DHS memos were out there, and we're going to be talking more about that in the next few days. We're going to have some people on that were really on that. But I just got to say that now with the censorship, with the taking down of Donald Trump from Twitter, from Facebook, with the attacks on Parler, people are mixing the defense for free speech to a defense of Trump or fascism or a right-wing ideology, which is not the case. It is, in fact, the very, very foundation of being able to fight fascism at every level is free speech. And the moment we take that away, we become 1984. War is peace, and this is not where we want to be headed. And the people supporting this are becoming tools they're doing the work for them, and they're framing truth tellers, people like Glenn Greenwald, Caitlin Johnstone, ourselves, and everything Julian Assange has fought for as white supremacist sympathizers, as Nazis, as people who only care about, free speech. They're minimizing the importance that free speech does and has to very, very vulnerable populations, including trans people, including people of color, including every working class person that is right now being screwed by this whole system. And they're framing it this way, Pasa, and you and I and the rest of us have to be louder than ever because the Patriot Act 2.0 is coming, and we have to find a way to illuminate these issues so people really don't repeat the same mistakes. But the way it's going, man, I see like so many people just falling for this crap.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't there. They jumped on the bandwagon of the mainstream media and their narrative they put out there right away. They tried to make this look like this were all just a bunch of white nationalist neo-Nazi people there armed to the teeth. I mean, I didn't see one friggin' weapon. Did you? I mean, maybe 150,000 people plus. I mean, I've never seen a crowd like that. It could feel But, at the same time, they weren't like, violent and angry or, I mean, you could see a lot of people were upset, stop the steal, but I didn't feel in danger in any way, shape or form. I wonder how you guys felt. If Johnny, if you ever felt threatened, even when we were by the Capitol, one guy got a little snappy with us. He was like, get that camera out of my face. when we were down there. But other than that, I mean, it was like, I would like to know your feelings as far as portraying the whole overall situation from the ellipse, which was the first protest, the first speech, the first rally where Donald Trump was, and then 2 miles away at the Capitol. I would just like to know your overall feelings before we get into the small details of everything that went on how you felt as far as a safety point of view, being a woman of color, being a man of color.
Yeah, well, for me, and I know Johnny said this too, like, well, I didn't feel unsafe there. I didn't feel, there was that guy that was yelling about women going home, but that was the extent of it. And I was just like rolling my eyes, like, whatever. And it was more of like along the lines of, we're fighting a real battle here and we will, it's dangerous and blah, blah, blah. But it was, I didn't feel in danger. I knew that these people weren't leftist or any like of my comrades or anything like that. I knew that it was a hodgepodge of people. I knew that some of them were actually there for election integrity, that they thought they got cheated, whether you believe that or not. That is their American right to go protest. And then there were some that are, have certain beliefs and ideologies that I vehemently disagree with and even fight against, where they have symbols, whether you want to call them Nazi symbols or white supremacy symbols, whatever it is, they have a certain belief system. They're more anti-immigrant. I don't know, because we weren't talking to those people about those ideologies. We went there for election integrity. So when we were just filming, that's all we were doing. We were filming. And before that, we were talking to people. We interviewed some people, and we had been planning on doing even more of that. But you have to understand, like, what the media is showing is only the very, very tip of the iceberg. They're not showing everything else that happened up until that point. So we were at a different rally that was 4 miles away, and it was Donald Trump making a speech. And in his speech, nowhere did he say we're incite violence in any way, shape, or form. He simply said we're going to march down to the Capitol, like literally Bernie Sanders and others have said multiple times. Now, you can disagree with their ideology, but just because you don't agree with their ideology doesn't mean that all of a sudden that means it's inciting violence. They marched down, and they were marching down when people had already been there. There was an attempt and a plan to already take over the Capitol before Trump even said those words. So what people are missing here, and the veteran woman is brought up to my attention all the time. Oh, she was a Nazi. She was this, she was that. She was on video talking about how she was there for Stop the Steal. She was on video talking about that it was a bunch of patriots and all that. Am I necessarily fond of that kind of language? No, I believe it's patriotic to have dissent. I believe it's patriotic to really hold your government accountable. And if that's what they felt like they were doing, sure, go do it. What am I supposed to do? Even if I disagreed with you, you have the right to do it. And then she was one of the people that was shot, made it up there eventually, because remember, Pasta, this thing went on for a while, and we were there and we were filming at the top, but we didn't get to go all the way to the tippy top. But I know from videos that were posted by people who are also there, and after talking to some of these people, plus and some of our friends who were there as well, who were reporting and there for Julian Assange, that they literally in video, they let people in like it was planned, and people need to stop and consider that this is much bigger than Democrat versus Republican. This is the establishment taking advantage and using these people who were really dumb about how they went about it. Like, if you're going to go do that, you have to have a specific plan, a specific purpose. And now they're putting in all this, oh, there were bombs, oh, there was this, AOC feared for her life. Like, the grandstanding and the acting coming from her. Like, people want to say, oh, you're making fun of her trauma. I'm not making fun of her trauma. There was literally, this was all a freaking psyop. And that will come out eventually. The truth will come out. But this is what I feel 100% after being there, after seeing how there was tear gas, there was all these things. But mostly, these people at the top were allowed to go in. And if you're not questioning why that is, and really, do you think it's Trump when all of them turned against him? This is bigger than Trump. Trump was used. Trump was completely just thrown out. And that's why his supporters were criticizing him. Were criticizing Pence because Pence wouldn't stick by him. by the election fraud issue. And now anytime you talk about election fraud, it's a right-wing argument now. They've managed to put that into people's minds now, Pasta. Like, you can't even say anything about election fraud. Oh, yeah, right-winger. These people don't even realize that they're being used on the left as tools for continuing the overtake of the technocratic oligarchy, so to speak. It's disgusting.
Yeah. It is a technocratic oligarchy. It's definitely the military-industrial complex combining with the government and big tech together. You know, it's just it's crazy. And when you talk about election integrity or election fraud, the first thing that comes to my mind is the same tactics that were used against Donald Trump were the same tactics used against Bernie Sanders. And when they did protest on the Senate floor in the joint session and they split off to talk about it, not one Democrat had mentioned the fact that we have proprietary software in our machines, meaning black box voting. We can't go in there and look. I mean, it's like a 12-year-old can flip these votes if they wanted to. And there's other mechanisms, other things that could really sway an election. If you have money and power, you're going to continue to hold on to power because you can tip the scale in these elections. That's why Bernie got cheated. You know what I'm saying? They had the money, they had the power, they had the ways and means of doing it. And it's not just the software. It's also things that they've been duped into standing behind now, like ballot harvesting. Like, you have a bunch of progressives out there saying that ballot harvesting is okay. And it's just really naive and it's just really reactionary because you think, oh, that might be great because I can grab somebody's ballot and take them in for them. But you have to also look at things of the negative aspects that could happen. When you're building a business, you can't just say, well, I'm going to sell hot dogs for this much and I'm going to make that much off and I'm going to make lemonade and blah, blah, blah. You have to think about the negative things that can happen. Oh, man, what if the water pipes get, clogged up and this is not an old building and this might happen and whatnot. You have to prepare for things from the negative aspect of things that can happen as well as the positive aspects. And it just really is crazy because these progressives have been so duped into not even caring about elections when they've been cheated twice, not even caring about censorship because they think it's just Donald Trump's voice and his followers that are being censored. And they're just going along with it. And, just to point out a few things too as well, because like that guy, first of all, I just Googled it. I saw it's like 2 miles plus from the ellipse to the Capitol building. We thought it was 4 miles. Maybe I looked at it wrong. Maybe it was a different spot.
From where we were, it was 4 miles.
Oh, because we parked and we walked and we had to walk, we had to go back or something.
I don't know. From where we were, it was like 4 miles. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what we are saying though is that we were there. We started leaving towards the end of Donald Trump's speech. We were still listening to it the whole time. And like you said, the things that they are doing and what they're doing what. Remember what Medhurst and we all talked about when we met Orf, the video that got him fired after one day on the Bernie Sanders campaign? Well, they're kind of doing something like that manipulation. They're just showing Donald Trump saying, we got to be strong. We got to fight. We got to fight. We got to fight for our elections. And they cut it there. And then the next couple sentences, he says, but we're going to do it peacefully because we are the country
they don't
of
show
law and
that.
order. They don't show that.
Yeah.
And he said that all the time. And we've talked about this. We've met on the Capitol. We met inside the Capitol building on a protest in front of Jerry Brown's door. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't meet, but we went there. We met a bunch of activists. There was like 100 of us. Yeah. Like, we do this stuff all the time, leftist liberals.
It's just because they don't disagree. They don't agree with our ideology, Pasta. That's what it comes down to. And, as somebody that is extremely, like, to the left, I just find myself, like, so, they're basically convincing the far right that this is why you can't have communism, because a lot of these people call themselves socialist, communists and stuff, and they're being super authoritarian. This is the boogeyman of communism that the right can use to say, see, this is why we don't want this, because they're just so authoritarian and this is the type of like just authoritarian takeover that can happen on the left. We've seen it before. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because you can't force people to do something like this that they don't want to do. You can't force people to believe in what you want them to believe in only. That's not how it works. And they've embraced this authoritarianism, whereas like me, I'm far on the left, but I am anti-authoritarianism. I do not want people dictating what you think. That is scary. It's the thought police. And that's what they've turned into. So, fam, let's get started because there's so much that we have to go over.
Well, we were mainly talking about the first subject, and that is Donald Trump and his speech, kind of pointing out the fact that we jumped ahead a little bit. Now, there are people who left. There were people who were matriculating out, but the majority of the crowd stayed there. So the people who marched with Donald Trump were not the ones who broke into the Capitol. And I want people to understand that. They hadn't got there yet. I went back to look at Tracy Beans' tweet, but Tracy Beans has been taken down since. But she even said, we haven't even reached the Capitol yet. And that's when shit would already gone down. Johnny made the video. He put it on up. We saw the stage. He was coughing at two and change. That crowd was still on the way back. It was still on the way marching down Pennsylvania and hadn't got there yet. So the fact they're even saying that his speech incited violence, no, it didn't. I mean, we listened to it. And I just want to point out for everybody there, that crowd that was marching hadn't reached the Capitol by the time the Capitol is breached. And they're not telling you that. They're swinging that. They're, you know what I'm saying? They're clipping out and telling you the pieces they want to make you believe that he said, let's go, we're marching down Pennsylvania Avenue. And then we showed up in the Capitol, we stormed the Capitol.
Right.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened, ladies and gentlemen. People were already at the Capitol building that weren't at the Ellipse, a decent amount of them, because that's how many people were there. You know what I'm saying? And I want to say, we think that something's going on. We obviously see video of people being escorted in, you know what I'm saying? And just showed, like, maybe giving a ticket for a hot dog and a soda at the end of the tour. I mean, that's how they were let in. We're seeing these whole things. And then we're just seeing the establishment take advantage of it. You know what I'm saying? I do want to point out this, fam. The people who were on near the Capitol steps, they were pissed off. Even the guy we talked about, he was like, take the women home, take the women home. And I said to him, I said, man, what are you talking about? I said, so there'll probably be some women that would say, you stay at home, I'm going out with the guns. And he goes, listen, my two girls could shoot the sweat off a gnat's nose 200 feet away. But it's going to get hairy here, and I'm a gentleman, and I want them to get home. So there were people that were by the steps that were pissed off. Did we see any weapons? No. Did you? I didn't see anything.
No.
People were angry, and you know what I'm saying? But what were they mostly chanting? USA, USA, USA. You know what I'm saying? That's what they were chanting. And so it wasn't like this angry mob. There were angry people, but
that can make that, you know, and that can make people uncomfortable, people chanting USA, USA, because there's a lot of people in this country who aren't happy with the state of affairs, who aren't happy with the people in power, who aren't happy to glorify a country that has let them down. And from a leftist perspective, I totally get that. But it's not something like they were shouting, you know, white supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. Like that's how the media and a lot of these progressives are making it sound like, oh, look at all these people ready to like take over a coup and like kill every congressperson. Guys, that's not what was happening. It's like all this like fluff that you're getting, and I wouldn't necessarily sit and have dinner in a room with these people, but I'm literally just saying, like, walking there and videoing, and Johnny, who is you know, very brown, we didn't feel at any moment like, ooh, somebody was gonna like grab us or anything. And Johnny was going closer and closer to the top to get filming. And now, you know, about this whole like, we didn't see weapons. We didn't see weapons. The most that people got,
not a single weapon. Yeah.
But we were also, you know, at the very top, supposedly people had weapons. I'm not going to argue that. If there are pictures of people with weapons, how did they get those weapons in there? I mean, where is this mass security? Like, I got to bring up that DC during the BLM protest was completely just armed. People were there. They don't let you even get that close. Even the other day when we were trying to get closer to the White House, they didn't let you get that close. Why would they actually allow this to happen if they didn't want this to be an example for why you can't have dissent, for why you can't have more protests, for why you can't have more uprising, especially now when they know that people aren't happy. They know that they gave them $600 and shit. And no health care during a pandemic, and then Nancy Pelosi gets reelected, and then you have massive distrust in the government. These people know that Americans are not happy. I literally at the airport, and even coming back here to Florida, I mean, talking to people who aren't political at all, who don't know anything. Every single person I've talked to is like, something's up with that. That doesn't make any sense. But it's the people that are only involved in their little echo chambers where they're like, oh, yeah, everybody's a Nazi, everybody's this, everybody's that. They can't get their head out of their ass because they're so busy listening to only these people that tell them what to think. And it has to be, oh, you're with us or you're against us, and that's it. And if you're not on our side and you don't agree with X, Y, Z, you're a fascist. And that's
ridiculous.
the danger that what's happening. And there was no weapons that we saw. I'm not saying that didn't happen at the top. I'm saying, how the fuck did those people get weapons up there? How the hell were those people allowed? Why was nobody going, trying to really, really, stop them? Why didn't the mayor bring more security? He denied it. He was asked, do you want backup? No, he said. So why is everybody ignoring this in an effort to just make it be, all these people are a bunch of violent? It's the same bullshit that happened when Pasta, and you remember this because this is why I get mad. When I was mad about the right saying the rioting and the looting of the businesses and all this stuff, I didn't necessarily 100% condone burning small businesses. I have no problem with them burning, CVS or Targets, because those are corporations. I'm not, I think we're at that point where people are angry and they're not being heard, so they're going to do that. Okay, they're going to do these things. The same people that were defending, a lot of the same people, not all of them, were defending, they have the right to riot, they have the right to loot. I was like, yeah, that's right. If, this is a consequence of not being heard. That applies to people you don't agree with too. If this little snippet, this little small group of people at the very top, fine, call it a riot, fine, call it a protest gone wrong, call it whatever it is, but to call it a coup and to call it a terrorist attack by the vast majority of the media is minimizing what a real terrorist attack does, what we do to fucking countries all over the world. We bomb the fuck out of them, and we don't give a shit, and we just don't bat an eye, and we don't do anything. Yeah. The people calling this a terror attack are the same people that do that day in and day out and have zero problems continuing to do it. So it is an insult to those people who die every day to call this a bunch of fucking Duck Dynasty fucks wearing furries a freaking terror attack. And the real fucking coup that's happening is the coup of the American people. We're getting cooed by the establishment oligarchy and their technocratic minions. That is what is happening. And there's that marriage there. Yeah. That's the real coup happening.
And fam, like we say, with the Black Lives Matter rallies, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people chastise them on the left for not being loud enough, for not staying late enough. They leave at 10 o'clock every day or 9 o'clock every day and they go home. And I've said this, I've never seen one Black Lives Matter organizer incite any type of violence whatsoever. So if somebody shows up in this group and uses it as cover and does something wrong, you can't blame that on Black Lives Matter. You can't do that. That's wrong.
Right.
Now, the same thing with this over here. You want to say if some bad apples, that is the term that people like to use or whatever, if somebody shows up and they cause violence, you can't put that on Donald Trump. He didn't incite that. He said at least 3 times in that speech, but we do it peacefully. We're the country of law and order. We love the boys in blue shit, right? So, this shit happens all the time. And what does the establishment do on both sides? The Ted Cruz's and the AOCs. Each side calls each one, the whole groups, every Trumper's a bunch of white fascists and Nazis. Every BLM person is a looter and a riot and is awful. It's just so stupid. The people are getting duped. This is like 9/11 to the fact that where they're scaring people into allowing their freedoms to be taken away. But in this particular case, it's even worse because now it's pitting half the country against the other half the country. And it's scary as can be.
Real quick, fam, by we, when I say that we overthrow countries all over the world, I mean our government, I mean the institutions, the 3-letter words, the CIA, the NSA, these military industrial complex. We do that all the time. They are the ones in power. Obviously, the American people don't have a say. This is where our tax dollars get spent. But the people in power, those institutions in power, those secret institutions too, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, the conglomerate of these institutions, when they go and they bomb countries and they commit real terrorist acts, and when they frame it to convince you, like they did post 9/11, that it was necessary to spy on more Americans, that it was necessary to have a crackdown, and they do this. When they do that, it's them doing that to turn you and to cheering for more war. The same thing is happening now. This is a new war on terror. It's domestic terror they're going to focus on, and they're going to focus on silencing any type of dissent. any type of dissent now is going to be looked at that. And if anything happens on January 20th, which I think that it will, we're going to see even tenfold. And they want to get those progressives on the side of the Democratic establishment cheering censorship, cheering for the destruction and the sanctioned police violence on people who they deem not willing to live. I mean, I was literally getting called a fascist and a Nazi on a Facebook thread for saying, I don't think these people should have been murdered. Even if you think they're a fascist, I don't think it's okay to shoot people, period. And I don't think the police should be allowed to shoot people point blank. And I am getting called a fascist for that, for not sanctioning state police violence.
This is stupid because here's the thing, because in any situation, people could argue, was the cop at fault? Was the cop wrong? Whatever, like that. But I don't think I've ever, and I would not condone this. If I saw anybody say that anybody from any Black Lives Matter rally deserved to die or deserved to get shot, that is wrong. That is terrible for anybody to say that person deserved it. You can argue if you say the cop was at fault or whatnot. And so many cases, we know the cop's at fault. And what are we asking for? Reform. You know, a lot of times when I see a cop get rough and I take somebody in, a person of color, I said, well, at least the motherfucker didn't shoot him. And I'm happy about that. But we have to change the whole system. But to see the people on the left do the same thing that we saw these people that we condemned and said, that's wrong, to say she deserved it and she deserved to die. I don't know if you can hold that cop at fault for what had happened. But saying that anybody deserved to die and saying, oh, because somebody sent me a message, well, another Karen dead, one less Karen here. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh, what, are you a Trump supporter? What? I mean, are you serious here?
I'm a fucking human being.
It's mind-boggling.
I'm a fucking human being with empathy. Like, even for people who you think are vile and don't deserve it. I'm sorry. I don't have zero shame saying that. I don't think... And it's more than it's more than even empathy. It's the fact that we are losing our humanity. We are losing our ability to literally think logically. Like, I'm sorry, it's not okay to kill people point blank just because you disagree with them. Put them in jail, make your case, do it that way. Killing people, then if we're at that point, we're just going to start killing each other, and we're not ready for that because people aren't armed. People don't even know where they stand. They're politically homeless. I mean, you're not fucking ready for a civil war, America. Like, stop asking for one. You're going to lose everything if we have a civil war. Completely. And that is what they want. They want you to fight each other. What part of that don't you get? There is this idea that we can't talk to people who are voted for Trump, let's say, and because they're all fascists and Nazis. And that's just not the case, because I could equally say, well, you guys shouldn't fucking be talking to people who voted for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is a freaking racist warmonger. And you don't care because he has the D next to his name. And at some level, you still think that you are a better person for having voted for Joe Biden. You think Trump is worse? Trump wouldn't exist without architects like Joe Biden having created him. So we're still at that debate where they still think that Democrats and Joe Biden are their fucking friends. And you're going to find out real quick, because there's no excuses left. They got the majority in the Senate. You got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who we're going to go into it. But Joe Biden is very happy this happened. He literally says that.
Yeah. And we're going to start a new war on domestic terrorism. And that's the thing. Like, you know, each side calling each other terrorists. It was so stupid when you got guys and like guys like Ted Cruz who open their mouth saying the other side are a bunch of terrorists, burning down buildings and all this other shit, and trying to put that, paint a broad stroke with that brush and put it on everybody. And now you got the same thing going on, that all these people at the Capitol were neo-Nazis and storming the building. And it's just, it is what it is. Guys, there's 350 people on the YouTube. There's only 15 people on the Rokfin. If there's ever a time we need you to go over to that Rokfin, the ROKFIN, please do it now. Censorship is running wild right now, and it might even get crazier in the next weeks to come. We talked a lot about election integrity in the past, and I don't think the deep state or the establishment wants us talking about that stuff. Remember, you're now not allowed to talk about that. I mean, what country do we live in when you can't even question the corporately bought and run elections? Terrible. David, thank you for the super chat contribution. He says, great work, guys. Well, David, great work for giving us that super chat. We love you and we do appreciate it. And Jim Garrison, who once tried to put Clay Barker on trial for the death of JFK, Jim Garrison left us another super chat contribution. Mona Modbot. Mona, what's up? She's got the hands
Mona,
prayers,
we love
the purple
you.
hearts. We love you, Mona. Thanks for all you do. Ignore
Sending you
the
all
haters.
the love.
Sending you all the love. And she says she loves us all. Thank you, Mona. We do appreciate that. Every little bit you guys gives us helps us out. That's why we were able to go to DC and cover those three events. And also, I got a nice super chat contribution from Brian Deutsch. We all know the Deutsch. A Deutsch. Thank you for the super chat contributions. But guess what, fam? We got some super rays going on over here. Some super rays. One from Brogressive. He tipped us and he said, thank you, Fee and Pasta, Johnny, for keeping your eyes on the prize. We have nothing without election integrity. And it's the bridge issue between all the stripes. Hey, Progressive, I couldn't agree with you more. No offense. Also left a super chat contribution. Thank you so much. No offense. Patrick S., thank you for the super chat. Guys, 24 now. Let's get to 50 today, guys. We have a great segment coming up. We're going to talk some real stuff over here. But go over to the Rokfin, Rokfin. Sign up for free. If you got a few extra bucks and you want to endorse, we always appreciate that. They have a super Ray mechanism now, which is kind of like a super chat. But Ray is the token of Rokfin, and that's how they take care of their content creators. And David Guevara, not Che, but David Che Guevara, he just tipped us too as well. Says, great jobs. David, great job for you for getting on over to that Rokfin. We appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, and we'll go from there. Oh, we do have another super chat. Before we get to the next one, let's get these out of the way. House cleaning, because we're going to have a crazy segment coming up. I think Fee is going to have a couple rants when we start talking about this next one. Donnie Known heard Trump got banned from Pornhub. Oh, man. He got banned from a lot of other things, which is
Trump making OnlyFans.
Making OnlyFans, Trump. He might get banned from that. Now, the next segment is called Big Censor Censors Free Speech, using the Trump DC as an excuse. They are using this as an excuse. They are gaslighting people, lying people, only showing the footage that makes everybody at that rally look bad. Like we say, whether you agree with them or not, a lot of the people there, the majority of the people, they were fighting for election integrity, to stop the steal. They believed that the election was fraudulent. Trump had talked about it. He talked the reasons why. And now they're trying to make that a crime. They started right off the bat, fam, where they suspended Trump's account permanently. And this is from the experts at CNN. After close review of recent tweets from Donald J. Trump, his account, and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence, Twitter said. In context of the horrific events this week, we made it clear on Wednesday that additional violations of Twitter rules would potentially result in this very course of action. And the last tweet he made was, I'm not going to be at the inauguration for Joe Biden. They said, oh, inciting violence, pulled it. Fam.
Right? They waited for him to say that and then said, oh, it's because of inciting violence. What? A lot of people, though, are going to be at the Joe Biden inauguration, and I would hope maybe, I don't know, comrades, what do you think? Maybe there should be a counter protest, not necessarily what, some of the more violent factions want to do, but maybe there should be a counter protest like, Joe Biden, we don't want you to be president unless you give us these 10 demands. Maybe some of us should form that and organize that. I don't know, but that's an idea, right? People have proposed that idea, have told me, Fiorella, you should do this, you should do that. And I'm like, well, we need people to actually do that, because right now they're all just ready and willing to let Joe Biden become president just like that. Because trust me, after this, they're going to crack down on every single leftist and activist, as Pasta said. That's exactly what's happening, right, fam?
That is exactly what is happening. But I also want to talk about, fam, really quick before we get into this, because we heard the speech. They're playing parts of the speech. I was saying, how did he incite violence? He kept on saying, we're going to march down peacefully. Let's take a look at some of the other comments that some of our other politicians, Democrats, have made and say if this is inciting violence or where we're at. Ayanna Presley said there needs to be unrest in the streets. Kamala Harris, and her hair's a little frizzy right here. Protesters should not let up. And she said several times, they're not going to stop. These protests are not going to stop. If you see anybody from the cabinet, in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. Maxine, Sister Maxine, and then fam, your fave, Nance. I just don't know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
Fam, can I say
Maybe
something?
There will be.
Do the last one.
Well, the last one is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But he said, once again, he said, go home and love and peace, the whole 9 yards. I don't want to harp on what he said, whatnot.
Yeah,
But I didn't even think this was inciting violence. I thought this is okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, yeah, like I wouldn't consider any of these people inciting violence because that carries a specific thing, like go to XYZ's house at 333 blah 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 and do this and that. Like you have to like prove that. And if you think that is, you prove it in a court. And if the website wants to say, hey, I'm going to flag this because it has an address and that's different. I don't see this as inciting violence. I do see this as politicians being opportunistic and taking a tragedy and trying to rile up people against each other. That's what it is. But hey, they have the right to say it. If you didn't think any of these things were violent, and you think what Trump said is, then you're just partial because of the supposed ideology that you have. But there in no way is consistency. Consistency is saying what he said is not inciting violence. What they're saying is not inciting violence either. Or all of it is. You can't have it both ways, people. This is why people have such a hard time with me, for instance, and I'm sure you too, Pasta, because we're consistent. Like when it comes to this, like we were out in the streets, filming people, the police hurting BLM people, hurting journalists. We were out in the streets getting arrested for that, mazed, tear gassed, getting our windows broken in. We will fucking be there and film that. But we're also not going to stand by and let the narrative be kidnapped to further divide us and say, oh, everybody is this. This is all violence. This is a coup. This is a terrorist attack. It is complete, like just this exaggeration that's going on, right, fam?
Big time. And we've always said this, I guess it's kind of the line of work we're in, where we're very kind of conscious about our civil liberties. And when they take them away from us, they never give them back, you know what I'm saying, from the get-go. And they use them by causing division and getting people scared. And that's what this is. The only one of these four ladies that I think is questionable is the Maxine Waters one. That's the only one I said a little bit, well, I don't know about that one. If you see anybody from the cabinet in a restaurant or a department store, there needs to be unrest in the street. Protesters should not let up. Why aren't there uprising? That still means peaceful protesting. But that one in particular is the only one I really I'm not crazy about. And what the main reason why people were there, and the main reason, the mechanism which the establishment is using to divide us, to take away our freedoms, is the fact that a lot of people that feel that these elections were fraudulent, right? And it's just crazy because once this happened, here comes the big purge. Now you have Donald Trump saying he's going to have a transfer of power. So now no big tech knows it's in the clear. Now they know they got their guy going into the White House and they're safe and they can do what they want. So the CIA, who's behind half of these big tech people, whatnot, or they work in conjunction with them, they started their little purge. So I put up other outlets who are being suppressed. The expected, Tracy Beans, right? So women's never really incited any type of violence, never said anything, whatnot. She's had certain CIA characters come in there and talk, or ex-people were involved. Patrick Byrne being one of them, the ex-CEO of Overstock.com. But her account, suspended, take her down. She's too much of a right-winger, a pro-Trumper. We don't like what she has to say. Steve Bannon, his YouTube channel, pulled right away. Because mainly, and the excuse was he was making false claims about the election. You can't question the elections, fam. You question the elections. We're gonna say no. The walkaway movement from Facebook, yanked. Once again, walk away from the Democratic Party. His name Brandon Straka, dude, removed. Saw a lot of his stuff here and there. Saw some a little piece on RT years ago. Didn't think the guy was violent. Just didn't want to be part of the Democratic Party anymore. And his whole ideology was walk away, walk to the Republican Party, right? But here's the one, fam, the way it starts to get hairy, because this is the thing we say, they're going to come for them, but they'll eventually come for you. Well, they didn't just come for them right away. They immediately came for you. This one right here really hurts. The People's City, LA. All right, the People's City Council, LA. This is the group that holds rallies in front of Garcetti's house, protesting rent relief, protesting poor people not getting evicted from their houses. They work with eviction lawyers like Elena Pop and other people, whatnot, to get poor people help. Well, they just took them down, fam. Your thoughts on that? Because this right here is what it's all about. And if people don't wake up, because to me, one of the biggest problems we have in LA, if not the biggest problem, is housing. We have hundreds of thousands of people on the streets. This is a huge problem. And these are the people who are fighting for the people who can't fight for themselves. And they got pulled.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, any sort of dissent against the government, the Democratic establishment or the Republican establishment is going to be now met with censorship, if not outright complete denial or gaslighting into, oh, you are anti-government, anti-democracy. That's what we're seeing the beginning of. Like, it's not like this didn't happen before. But when a Silicon Valley major company, a corporation, a multi-billion-dollar corporation can censor the president of the United States and take his whole account down, what do you think they're going to do to the rest of us? Who do you think is in charge then, right? And so when I see people like accounts like People's City Council LA get taken down, people found out about marches, protests, thanks to them. They found out information, all of these things that help the community hold these politicians accountable. And now you don't have that because you wanted to suppress the voice of Steve Bannon, who, yeah, I think he's a piece of shit and I can't stand the guy. Honestly, like I despise his ideology. I think he's a horrible human being. But guess what? He still has the right to say what he has. The ACLU in the 70s literally defended a Nazi group, actual flat out like real Nazi group with swastikas to their right to protest. And the ACLU then said, yes, they have they have the right. This is hate speech. It's still protected. It's not inciting violence. They have the right, because that's been going back and forth. People like bringing the hate speech argument. The last part of that argument in the court did protect hate speech. Like you can't. You have to prove that there is ability to incite violence. When I was younger, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't think that's fair. I think we should get rid of these people who are Nazis and saying these things. Why would we allow that to happen? It offends so many people. Like about 10 years ago, I used to think that way. And I brought up, the paradox of intolerance, like if you're too tolerant of intolerance, then you eventually become, too tolerant to fascism, blah, blah, blah. But that's not how it works, you guys, because as I progressed and as I understood things, and a lot of people are throwing that meme at me right now, as if I didn't read it 10 years ago. Sorry, you were a little late to that. I understand that you are not going to defeat fascism by pretending it doesn't exist, shutting it up and putting it away, and pretending that half of the country doesn't exist. If we want to fight those people, we fight them in open, with discussions, with more speech, with more dialogue. We denounce their hate by facing them. Okay, there are several people who are Black Americans who have done that and gone and talked to Black Klansmen or to Klansmen, and they have changed their minds. Okay. Yeah. And Glory Jones and Steve interviewed actually this one woman who's amazing, and she managed to do that. And this is possible. It's not fun, and I'm not asking all of you to do it, but I'm saying that this whole idea that you can defeat it by completely censoring everybody, it ends up screwing the working class, people of color, gay people, trans people, all the people you say you want to protect. This is the result of that.
Yeah, and that's the problem. A lot of these progressives, they act on their emotions. The guy I was talking about before, his name is Daryl Davis. Just look him up. Just put up Google in or DuckDuckGo in, KKK member gives black musician robes. And he would collect their robes. He would get them to leave the Klan, and he would take their robes and he would keep them, and, as a sign of like, hey man, I went and talked to these people. And Dr. Cornel West said on our show, everybody's had some type of problem. They're at one point at one time in their life, and they can get to another point. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's going through something. So we can win these people over by talking to them and just, what I'm saying? It like you said, you can't take it, put it aside, put it in a nice little box and just silence it that way. It's never going to work. You can't do it. And once you start opening up those gates, I want to really read something that somebody sent me really quick on Instagram, talking about the progressives and saying how they're just being duped for this, this infringe on our civil liberties and our freedom of speech. It's really frightening. And what's also creepy is how many progressives, or maybe progressives, I follow are cheering on Trump losing his Twitter account. They all need a history lesson in why, in 1978, the ACLU protected the Nazis' right to march in Skokie, Illinois, a village that was half Jewish, many of them Holocaust survivors, and also learn why the importance of this landmark First Amendment case. They should look into this, fam. They should learn this. You were just talking about this. One problem I see increasingly is the Nazification of the politically correct, who identify as leftists, but are authoritarian in their mandates for everyone else. They're short-sighted, spoiled, and don't seem to realize how fascistic their stance is. Why isn't even one so-called progressive bent out of shape about anyone challenging an election result after what we went through with Bernie? Why is one? Why does one progressive give a shit that anyone destroyed property in the Capitol building where lobbyists bought Congress members destroy their constituents' lives in a myriad of ways? They really do act like conflicted adult children of alcoholics, as the Jimmy Dore calls them.
It's true, fam. And that's exactly it. And it's, for me, it's like, why are you so pissed off that Nancy Pelosi got, something taken? I mean, she's taken so much from the American people. She's given us nothing. Why are you so angry that in the halls of justice, where these politicians supposedly draft legislation to do their fucking job for you, they haven't done shit? Why? You know why? Because the left didn't do it. I think that's part of it too. If the left had actually done that, they'd all be cheering and saying, "This is great." Da 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 da. Like, if they had managed to do that. But you know what? They're not gonna let somebody that really wants to take over the government and actually do something about it. They're not gonna let you get even that remotely close, because if they can't frame it in a way to vilify you, they're not going to let it happen. It's going to get really bad. So if you ever want to take power back, you need a lot of people, a lot of people on the same page. And it can't be fully violent right away. You can't do that. They're gonna use it to vilify you, and that's what we're seeing here. Is that a very poorly organized, completely just not one. There was no one goal to do this, right? It was a plethora of people doing different things, and some people weren't happy with what went on. Just like I've seen in other, in the BLM protests, where I've seen some people want to be more radical and some people don't. And so again, I'm not saying it's the same cause. Obviously it's not at all. And it's definitely not the same ideology, but I am saying that they're both being manipulated and being taken advantage of by the establishment and by these people. So there's a couple of them too. We have Red Scare Pod is a leftist podcast.
What's up? Who is that?
It was a leftist podcast. I didn't really know that much about it. I just know it was really popular on Twitter. They were taken down. And on Facebook, the Progressive Party, it was a group that was disabled because the thought police at Facebook decided that one of our moderators shouldn't be allowed to speak his mind. We still have 51 subgroups for each state in DC, but the main group is of 8,500 people was disabled. They're appealing it, but they'll likely overturn it. This kind of shutting down on popular speech is ironically the fascism that platforms like Facebook claim to want to shut down. Sad, sad day. Hundreds of people have reached out directly asking what happened. If anyone is tech savvy and knows methods to contact Facebook directly and any help you're willing to provide will be much appreciated. And so they're there. And this was the Progressive Party. It was just a group of people trying to start another party or another set of ideas for a party. Yeah. And they were also shut down.
You can't even reach out to these people. You can't get a hold of them. Whatnot. We don't have a number to call on YouTube. They shut us down. You didn't abide by our guidelines. And it's so vague. And that's how they do this shit. And then when they have to face the fire, oh, you must have tripped the algorithm. We'll turn you back on. Yeah, but when you have a group, when you have a party, when you have a channel, when you have a podcast, momentum is everything. Momentum is everything. And if they can slow down your momentum, they cause you financial distress. And if you have financial distress, you can't do this full time. So they suppress your opinion. It's just very much more nuanced. And by the way, before we get into these people we're about to get into, Kat Terrell left a super chat contribution on our YouTube, but really nicely on the Rokfin, the Super Ray is just jumping up, guys. 35 people, make fan happy. Give us 50. We need 15 people from you YouTubes to come on over to our Rokfin and help us out over there. It makes you. I'm going down really quick on the Rokfins and the Super Ray. We have Mohammed Afzal. Thank you guys. Keep telling the truth. Just like Glenn Greenwald, Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden. You rock with the hard heart. Mohammed, you rock. David Guevara. He gave us more of a tip because he didn't think he gave us enough the first time. Thank you so much, David Guevara. That's 2 tips for you today. We appreciate you always reaching out. And also we have Giancarlo Venezuela Sagora. Keep up the great work. No, you keep up the great work. Thank you for coming on over here, giving us these Super Rays.
Maduro was a champion of the people.
Champion of the people. I want Johnny to say that. I love when he says that. Brian Foch tipped $10. Let's get the Convo Couch back to DC. Let's make this trip happen. Sherry McCrae, thank you so much. Thank you for your courage and your commission.
We got to get back there, guys. We got to see. We got to film this.
You guys. You want to go back there, don't you?
Oh, of course I do. Of course.
Christine Lund.
Who, literally people are like, thank you for putting your life in danger. It's like, I didn't feel like my life was in danger, but we did feel scared at one point. Not because people were necessarily being crazy, but because I felt something was going to happen with the police and everybody else. And there could be like a trampling because there were so many people. Like, that's what was really like the fear that I had. You know what I mean? Like, we've gone to right in front of the police with them pointing guns at us. I mean, we do this not because we just want clicks. Like, if we just wanted clicks, we would be peddling the same mainstream media narrative that the vast majority of the neo-progressives are saying. Oh, everybody's a fascist. Oh, this white supremacist. Oh, impeach in prison and, denounce Trump, everything he did, blah, 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 blah. Like, that it would be so easy to do that. It would really stop all the hate mail that I'm getting, all this hate, like, literally on social media.
It's a lot easier.
You wouldn't believe.
I'm second guessing what I'm saying and shit right now. Like, the other day, I just got called. I was told I was part of the Confederate again. Like, you MAGA lover and people.
Y'all don't know what the Confederate is, motherfuckers. Like, I'm freaking from Florida.
Like,
come on. Like, I know what that is. Like, these people, the vast majority of them, Pasta, live in California. They have never interacted with actual white supremacy. They don't have the experiences myself and Johnny have regarding racism. They definitely don't know how to talk to people on the other side. They live in a liberal fucking state. They literally don't know. I've grown up in so many different parts of this country. I've known people who in my family who are on the right, and that goes to show you that Trump grew his base, and it's really scary. I mean, the vast majority of my family are Democrats, but I don't like that either. So it's like they don't know how to have these conversations. Like, it's just so easy to call somebody a Nazi collaborator or a partial to white supremacy or defending them when you don't understand what's going on. It's just so easy, but it's ridiculous. Yeah. When you come from the background I come, it's ridiculous to be called that. It's like insane. God knows what they call you, but if they're calling me that, I mean, it's like
no shit. And a lot of, like I said, I don't think a lot of people grew up around people of color like we did. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's like, oh, you went to high school in Boca Raton, and I'm like, yeah, there's 3-4 areas of Boca Raton. One was Pearl City, one was Dog Patch, where I'm from, and the other one we called Scumberland Farms, because it was out by a Cumberland Farms convenience store and stuff like that. So I had a lot in common with some of the poor kids that were bussed over from the other town, and we were friends. Like, I went to my senior prom with a couple people of color, picked them up, whatnot, and I grew up with people, and I see a lot of these social justice warriors, white knights, and I'm like, where the hell have you? It's like, I'm like, shut the F up. You don't even know what you're talking about. Jim C left the super chat contribution. He says, what about their messenger accounts? Are they suspended too? A lot of people use that instead of email. I don't know, man. You might want to take a look into that. But, when you have a platform on a YouTube, on a Twitter, on on a Facebook, and you've built a following over the years, doing so much work, putting your blood, sweat, and tears in it, and they can just yank it because you have a different ideology or you have a different thought than them. I think I share a lot of ideology with a lot of progressive friends. At the end of the day, we don't want to see people suffering on the street. We don't want to see people starving. We want, I'm saying, it's just the means and ways we get there. But the lack of nuance from these people, and the way they are just so easily duped by feelings and emotion and stuff. It's like, no, people, ladies and gentlemen, you got to look into the deeper, consequences if we do things like this, which the AOC and the squads and the new squad are doing. Natural Progressive left a little love there. Thank you so much from Roar.
Thank you, guys.
Roar Media, we love you. We really do appreciate your
Seattle fams.
Your love. Seattle fams. And I got two more real quick, and because we get into the next one. Don't you know? And this is something interesting. The reason why I wanted to read this one, it says, we need a new form of decentralized social media platforms to replace Facebook and Twitter. But that's the thing. Look what's going on with Parler. It's going to be shut down tonight because the actual Johnny, what would you call that runs the platforms, that controls the platforms, they're pulling them off. Is that the server?
Yeah.
They're yanking them. So right now, it's like, what do? You still need some form of cooperation or permission from the state, whoever runs these satellites and stuff. You can't just go and just put something up. Eventually, you can look. Look at what's going to happen to Parler tonight. And the Italian Stallion, this is my inner cheat. Just want to say that I am honored you used the picture I sent you about the Progressive Party page getting shut down by Facebook. Means a lot. You put it out there. It wasn't my page, but I posted there a lot. Italian Stallion. That's what paisans do for one another, and that's why I did it for
Just laughing at the name Italian Stallion. That's hilarious.
We do have another Super Ray really quickly, and that's from Andrea over on the Rokfin. Guys, get on over to that Rokfin. Don't piss Fiorella off. She's already pumped up. We got 39. We need 11 more of you. We want 50 per show. Thanks from all the videos from DC. Where are you going to go next? Back to DC. And then who knows from there. But once again, the crew is we are all in on this. We're trying to get all our gear together so that when we get on the streets, we can stream live, and you can count on us to give you up-to-date stuff because we'll get in those messy spots. But in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, we're not making this up. They were jamming our feeds.
Yeah.
Jay Burmis talked about it. Poikinen talked about it. They were jamming our feeds. So live streamers could not do their jobs. Only the real news could.
So fam, let's get to it with AOC.
Yep. AOC and the fraud squad. Cheers on censorship. Here's AOC's tweet from the other day, okay? What are Apple and Google Play going to do about this? Once again, talking about Parler, right? So they take a Parler, and I know what this is like, ladies and gentlemen. It happened to me the night before Stop the Steal. I put up a Parler. Somebody took a picture, brought it over to Facebook, and then they started beating on me, Facebook style. And I wasn't even like, I said progressives, true progressives should be standing with these Stop the Steal people because Bernie was cheated twice.
They just want to smear you.
Yeah. So what she did, this calls for violence on Parler are getting much worse. There are now open calls for murder of police officers and planning the violence on January 20th. This obviously severely violates the law, much less the Apple Store and Google Pay rules. Hashtag pull Parler.
So,
and this dude Colonial IT Perez puts down. You want me to read it or?
No, go ahead.
You want to just talk about it real quick? I was going to say today, January 6, 2021, we Patriots by millions have arrived at Washington, D.C. carrying banners of support for the greatest president the world has ever known. But if we must, many of us will return on January 19, 2021, carrying our weapons in support of our nation's resolve, to which the world will never forget. We will come in numbers that no standing army or police agency can match. However, the police are not our enemies unless they choose to be. All who will stand with the American patriots or who cannot stand with us. Taken. That would be a good time for you to take a few vacation days now, the American Patriot. Fam,
so, look, this if you're talking about inciting violence, you could potentially argue that you would have to say, where they're going to go. But here's the thing, guys. We have drones, we have bombs, we have a massive security, right? To pretend that the police weren't prepared for this, because you have to shut down Parler so they could have better equipped for this. That's bullshit, because they had it in the DHS memos. They had all this information. They had everything to know that these people were coming. There was a memo to the mayor. I mean, like, I'm not even lying about that. God, I didn't put it in the folder, but I'll bring it up because we're going to be talking more about this, because I have a certain way that I think that we need to be looking at this, because I agree, Pasta, like this in particular is going to be used against any sort of dissent. So like I said, if we wanted to protest Joe Biden and say we're going to demand all these things, if these people come out because you took down Trump's Twitter, you completely gaslight them on election fraud, you completely have allowed Trump to become this martyr, which, by the way, he didn't have to be, right? You're still pushing impeachment. You're still pushing all these things. You're taking down all these right-wing accounts. What do you think is going to, what do you think that's going to do? Do you think people are just going to sit back and do it and take it? And I think this is a result of that. But also, you got, like I said, they can defend themselves. They can put security. This could be all talk. It could be, they might not get that many people after everything that happened. But the reality is AOC is, I don't think she's that smart. I think she's actually a tool, being used as a tool, because she's parodying these talking points that are perfect for the new incoming war on domestic terrorism. This is it, folks. This is it right here. She is peddling the beginning of that. Oh, what are you going to do about this national security state? Google, Silicon Valley. What are you going to do about this? Can you please shut it down? Are you fucking kidding me? The violence? What about the violence, AOC, that you didn't care about regarding Venezuela? What about the violence in the Middle East that constantly happens all the time? Where is your outrage about the violence? What about the woman you voted for who completely gave Trump more than he wanted for his military budget? What about that fucking violence? That's violence. Violence is American people not getting anything, not getting more than $600, not getting health care. Violence is what us screaming about force of vote when we were already surrounded by cops when it was 30 of us, and yet these people get to walk in, take over, and now it's a domestic terror attack. No, you were fucking scared. All of you were scared that people were unhappy and that people were going to rise up. So you have to divide them now, and you have to make them terrorist villains in order for you to silence dissent. That's what's going on here right now, Pasta. That is exactly what it is. She's a fraud, and she's proving to be exactly what Jimmy Dore said. And all these people are going to continue saying, oh, how dare you? She's just defending herself. She was scared. Oh my God, her trauma. Shut the hell up. That's completely, it's all bullshit. This whole thing is an entire psyop.
All right, I just got something that showed me that somebody's puts I wouldn't trust it. They didn't spell the name right there. It's Parler. Pasta is on there. I found him. I got on yesterday. Same tag as my Twitter handle. The interface is slightly worse in my opinion, and there's no dark mode. But I'll take it over the censorship. So somebody was like, "Hey man, I found Pasta on Parler. Go over there." Some people were calling for get Fiorella on here. I'm like, well, it might take a little time. Wait till she gets suspended on Twitter, and then she'll come running right on over.
Possibly, people literally are mocking that, oh, wait till she goes on Parler. People are already saying I have a Parler when I don't have a Parler, because they saw your thing, and because I was saying what I was saying about censorship and about what happened. It's like, oh, if you're on Parler, you must be a right winger. There's plenty of leftists I know that have a Parler to either spy on what the right is doing and see, or because of election integrity, or because of the censorship. Whatever the case may be, there are other people. Is it predominantly right wing? Absolutely. It shouldn't be, though. You shouldn't let one entity, one ideology take it over. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Jesus
well, the
Christ.
whole thing is that they're, as far as that first Parler that we saw from that person talking about we bring our guns, I would say Parler should take it down. But once again, by the time they catch up to these things, psyops can come on there. That could be somebody from the left putting that on there to cause problems to get them shut down. That's not a common thing on Parler. Is the ideology very different on Parler than it is on Twitter? Yeah. I mean, the Rose Twitter is just out of hand. And it's the echo chamber for neoliberals and neo-progressives now, when it was just more, like the what do you call it, the public square of everybody talking. But the fact that they banned right-wingers from Twitter has really hurt the platform, and people are scared. They're going over to Parler. Kim has a Parler over there. Niko has a Parler over there. So we'll see. And what are you gonna do?
I already see these people like saying, well, Niko, duh, he's a right winger. Oh,
yeah.
Tim,
we're getting suppressed left and right. We're going to wait until we get shut down completely. And here's the thing that really drives me crazy, fam. You might say, and we saw a lot of the neo-progressives, especially on that one thread that everything's going crazy, that you might think that the election fraud accusations were QAnon, off the wall, bullshit. You shouldn't talk about them. Excuse me. You might think they're off the wall and they might be false, but to say that people can't talk about them, furthermore, to say that our congressional leaders like Hawley can't talk about them and the other Republicans that objected can't talk about, is just incredibly blowing my mind. Now, Cori Bush, that was a name we rooted for this girl on. She was a fighter for social justice, but we always questioned what was going on because she didn't say anything about civil liberties. She didn't say anything about foreign policy. Here she is. Cori Bush introduces legislation to sanction, remove House members from office who supported 2020 election challenges. That just blows my freaking mind.
Can you click on it?
She is now my least favorite member of the squad, along with Jamal Bowman, the both of them. I mean, what kind of world are we living in that you can't even talk about something? You can't question the results of the election that have proprietary software? And I put that post up, man, and people just went after me. They went after me hardcore. Fam, your thoughts about this?
Yeah, this is yet again proving my ever growing secure theory / reality that, Caitlin Johnstone and Glenn Greenwald have talked about and also been brutally attacked, that this is all a psyop. The House Resolution 17th Congress First Session is dated January 5th, 2021. They had this already in play, you guys. This is a date right there you can see. And let me see if I can pull it up so I can read it. But I wanted to highlight a little bit of it because honestly, how either they're psychic and they knew this was going to happen, or they already had something in plan. Look, for weeks, the Democrats, since the beginning of his presidency, they've been trying to impeach him, right? They failed to impeach him on Russiagate. They could have done it on the emoluments. They chose not to because they would have impeached themselves. So then they're trying to do this when he has less than 2 weeks to leave. They're trying to impeach him. These were the articles of impeachment. And this is drafted January 5th, like I said, and it says directing the Committee on House Administration and the Committee on Ethics to investigate and issue a report on whether those members of the House who have sought to overturn the 2020 presidential election have violated their oath of office to uphold the Constitution or the rules of the House of Representatives and should face sanction, including removal from the House of Representatives. Bush submitted this resolution, and you guys can see that this is scary. Like, why is she, regardless of what happened on the Capitol, whether you think it was a coup, whether you think Trump was involved, whatever, why is she trying to remove people questioning the election? That's their right. It's an American right to question our elections, especially when we can't look in the proprietary software.
Yeah. It's their duty to question that and have a discussion on the floor about it.
If the public is questioning it, yes, you're right. Yeah. It's their duty to do what the public says and say, let's look at this.
Especially a conservative, and if I'm saying he's a conservative, libertarian-minded senator from Missouri, and they, and just like, Jesus Christmas, I don't want to start there and defending Ted Cruz right now, but Ted Cruz has the right to stand up and talk about these elections the way they are and stuff like that. Everybody does. You know what I'm saying? We have a corporately controlled elections, and the fact that they're telling people that they're going to get punished for questioning the elections, that blows my mind, fam. We are in some scary times,
fam.
And
no, and not to mention the fact that this is nothing new. Like, what happened when Al Gore and Bush, like, when Al Gore was cheated by Bush? We questioned the elections then. Like, what Democrats wanted to question the elections then? Like, what? I
Yeah.
don't understand. Like, you're acting like questioning elections is oh, it's undemocratic. It's undermining the integrity of our democracy. I'm sorry, how? Like, that is
Yeah.
as American as it always has been, questioning our elections, because people don't have trust in the elections. People don't vote because they don't trust the elections. So I don't understand how suddenly I forgot to put up Primo Nutmeg's quote, but it was basically like, it was okay to question the elections with Russiagate. It was okay to question the elections, even with Bernie Sanders to a degree, by some of these progressives. It was okay to question the elections with Bush v. Gore, but somehow we get to this moment, and not only can we not question the elections, but everything we've said up until that point, by Twitter controlling stories that would make Biden look bad, everything up until that point has been absolutely, like, looked down as conspiracy. And now they're calling people who are telling the truth conspiracy theorists. Why? Because wait a minute, you just want to take it at face value when we can't look into these machines, when the United States has a history of literally not just overthrowing democracies all over the world and placing their puppets in there, but also doing the same thing to our own elections. Yet somehow we always have to blame a boogeyman, whether it's Trump, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's Venezuela. Like, no, guys, we do it ourselves. I mean, this is what we do. This is nothing different. This is nothing different than what we do across the world.
By the way, we have 43 people over on Rokfin. Oh, we went to 42. Come on, guys, let's get to 50. Brian Deutsch says, great job. Tipped us up again, giving us that super ray. Thank you so much. That is pretty awesome of all of you. We love it. We have 469 people on YouTube. Some of you guys, get over to that Rokfin. Help us out. What we're talking about is censorship, and it can really, really hurt us. Rokana, your boy fam, says, Parler is hosted by Amazon Web Services. Amazon should deny Parler services until January 21st unless they commit to removing all posts related to incitement of violence concerning the inauguration. This will help prevent further violence and save lives. That seat doesn't belong to Rokana. That seat belongs to who, fam?
Silicon Valley,
Silicon Valley. And your boy, the Humanist reports, my only criticism is that it didn't happen soon enough. He's going to be fucking pissed. And he was talking about Twitter safety, saying after a close review of recent tweets from the Donald J. Trump president account and the content around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. You know, that is like two people right now, I think, who really expose themselves. The Humanist Report and Jordan Sheridan. Jordan Sheridan saying anybody who talked about, who peddled this conspiracy theory stuff, you YouTubers out there who are not real journalists like me, should be taken down. And here's the Humanist Report, bragging about censorship and saying it should be done. But, fam, Caitlin Johnson, your girl, she comes to your rescue. And I put this tweet up because kind of mocking these people, because I think you had a certain tweet similar to this. Liberals learned the words coup and insurrection like 5 seconds ago, and now they are academic experts on both of these things. Didn't you say something about sedition?
Yeah. They're saying that this is sedition. This is like an insurrection. This is terrorism. Oh my God, let me clutch my pearls a little bit harder. Oh, like, what the hell is what changed? Like, except the fact that a bunch of right-wingers did it. That's what it is. Like, it's disgusting to see, Pasta. And like, Caitlin's also been called like a Nazi sympathizer. I remember even a few years ago, I was like defending her, like saying, you know, what are you talking about? Like, she's literally holds accountable everybody. Like, she's across the board consistent. Like, they don't recognize what consistency is because for so long they've been fed a biased narrative. And a lot of these progressives want to continue being fed a biased narrative. They want to continue, people just want cheerleading for these politicians like AOC and the squad. They want you to cheerlead Bernie Sanders, never criticize him. They want you to just cheerlead every single progressive that they care about and basically just put a stamp of Medicare for all and a Green New Deal, and that's it. Like, that's not real journalism doing that. It gets you a lot of clicks and a lot of likes, and it doesn't get you that much of an attack, But the real work is holding people accountable, even if they're on your side, or literally people who aren't on your side, not painting them all as criminals and evil and terrorists, because you know that the greater agenda here by the oligarchy is to actually get people to fight and to have zero conversations. And it's journalists like Caitlin Johnstone who literally are able to put that into perspective. I mean, they just don't even know what this is. Like all these, especially these liberals, right? They have no idea what a coup is. They have no idea that their government literally commits coups all over the fucking world. That Joe Biden was part of the administration that couped a really democratically elected leader, Manuel Zelaya, in Honduras, with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. They don't know that the coup in Venezuela that AOC was supporting. By the way, AOC follows Juan Guaido. Why the hell does she follow him? I could follow Juan Guaido to spy on him as a journalist, but she, as a congresswoman, she has zero reason to follow Juan Guaido. But she did defer to
as a DSA member,
Venezuela,
yeah.
So.
Which it was fun, ladies and gentlemen. We got to meet a lot of people from the Gray Zone. Mad Max, Blumenthal, Anya Pompel, Dan Cohen, speaking at that beautiful Action for Assange Day 2 rally, eating cake and juice in front of the where were we? What building was that? It wasn't Homeland Security. It was the Department of Justice. It was great when Max got out of the car and he was like walking up to the rally. He was smiling so happy because at that day they announced that they weren't going to extradite Julian Assange, but then he also laid out the ruling in the case. Pretty much the people who invented war, the Brits, said that American prison is too rough and they shouldn't move him there. He was at risk of being killed and whatnot and committing suicide. But the reasons why they even sided with the reasons from CNN and MSNBC and all these other bullshit outlets on what Julian Assange, what they claimed he did, which is just was fault. But fam, let's talk about Corn Pop. Corn Pop said something about we need a strong Republican Party.
Exactly. And again, this is going along with what I'm proposing as this theory that I think we're going to see develop in the next few weeks. Peter Dow posted this breaking: Biden says attack makes job easier. We're not going to listen to the full 6 minutes. I'll stop you, Johnny. But Joe Biden basically said that the attack on the Capitol makes his job, quote, easier. Biden also praised Mitch McConnell and said America needs a strong Republican Party. Who else said that? Nancy Pelosi also said that. So let's take a little bit of a listen.
And you have called for unity and healing in this country, but after the events of Wednesday, does that make your job easier or harder?
I think it makes my job easier, quite frankly.
Unity and healing
I've had a number
in
of my
this
Republican
country,
colleagues,
but after
former colleagues, I used to serve in the Senate for a long time, call me. Many of them are as outraged and disappointed and embarrassed and mortified by the president's conduct as I am and Democrats are. And I think I have said from the beginning, and I have not changed my view, my overarching objective is to unify this country. We must unify the country. And I think that you've heard me say this before, and I apologize for repeating myself, but understandably the questions are repetitive and good. I mean, I'm not being critical of the question. And that is that there's two ways people are inspired: by inspirational leaders and by terrible leaders. By terrible leaders. What this president has done is rip the Band-Aid all the way off to let the country know who he is and what he's about and how thoroughly unfit for office he is. And you see already a number of Republicans. I was so proud. I know we're on opposite sides. I'll get criticized from some of the people in my party for saying this, but I've worked very hard with and against the former, soon-to-be former Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. I thought what he said on the floor of the United States Senate was, in fact, the right thing to do. He stood up. He's ashamed. I spoke with a guy I have enormous respect for, and I ran against him, Mitt Romney. I spoke to Mitt this morning again. This is a man of enormous integrity, who lives his faith. There are so many more, but there's others who should be ashamed of themselves. But they make up a minority of the Republican Party. This isn't about Republican, Democrat anymore. This is about people who understand what this country's about and the things we have to agree on and move together on. I just think that if you look at it, speaking to some of my Republican colleagues, and I've spoken to a number of them over the last month since we've been elected, through recently as the day in which this god-awful debacle was taking place up on the Hill. And I think they understand that they're going to have to, we need a Republican Party. We need an opposition that's principled and strong. And I think you're going to see them going through this idea of what constitutes a Republican Party. And to hear some of my colleagues, Republican colleagues, talk about how shameful it is of the way Ted Cruz and others are dealing with this, how they're responsible as well for what happened.
Do you think some of them should resign? Should Senator Cruz or Senator Hawley resign?
I think they should be just flat beaten the next time they run. I think the American public has a real good, clear look at who they are. They're part of the big lie. The big lie. I was being reminded by a friend of mine, and maybe you were with me, I can't recall, when we were told that, you know, Goebbels and the great lie, you keep repeating the lie, repeating the lie. Well, there was a print that when Dresden was bombed, firebombed, there were 250 people.
All right, Pasta, your thoughts on that? Unmute.
I'm looking for a garbage pail to see if I can throw up in it.
I mean, you know, if you guys listen to what he said is actually really scary, because he's saying we need a real opposition party. And Joe Biden, I agree. We need a real opposition party. The real opposition party isn't the Republican Party. Not the one you want, like, to be honest. Like, what he's basically alluding to here is the fact that, oh, this isn't about the Democrat and Republican. This is about Americans coming together and da-da-da-da. What he means by that is we don't want a real opposition party. We want to keep our nice Republicans who are part of the establishment, part of the status quo, who aren't going to rile up any kind of dissent in any way, shape, or form. That's why we got rid of Trump. That's why we don't like, you know, all these people that are still like pushing the election thing. And then we're gonna, you know, we really, that's what they call opposition party. Actually, the opposite is what they want. They want he's naming people like Cheney. He's naming people like Mitch fucking McConnell, saying that I agree with Mitch McConnell. This is it, guys.
Ted Cruz,
this
Lindsey
is the great
Graham.
reset, or whatever it is people were calling it. This is what we're talking about here. This is the new age of where you're not going to have the lines are going to completely blurred out. They're going to put civility in here saying, oh, this is what we need to come together, have civil discussions. They don't mean have civil discussions. They don't mean that. They literally mean controlled opposition in the Republican and Democratic contingents. They mean that they don't want any dissent, and this makes his job easier. Yes, it does, because now all you have to do to vilify dissent is say, oh, election fraud is a right-wing argument. Oh, what, you want violence like what happened on the Capitol? Oh, now it makes his job a lot easier. He doesn't have to fight the fractured Republican Party now, because that fracturing, whether you want to call it the Trump's party, the Tea Party, the right-wing populism, all of those people are now deemed right-wing white supremacist terrorists. So they don't want him anymore. Yeah. So what they do want is some sort of civility fucking bullshit to happen in order to get their agendas passed. Their agendas include mass surveillance, zero anything for the people, and just any amount of crumbs to placate the masses, and that's it. And it increasing spying and foreign policy blunders.
They do definitely want to increase the security state because they want to know when you're coming. You know, you guys have made your voices loud and proud out there. And it's a shame you're being duped to going right back into the same spot you started with. Like you talked about 10 years ago, how you thought something and how you evolved. But they've literally, what you talked about when they got people to go back into the Democratic Party and only took one election cycle after cheating Bernie twice, they did it right again right now with this stunt right here. I mean, who is this guy going to unite? Nobody likes this guy. If you want to sit there with the argument and saying that, well, Joe Biden didn't win, Trump lost, people voted against Donald Trump. How is this guy, which I don't believe, by the way, how is this guy going to unite anybody? He can't get 50 people together in one room. In one room. And really, to tell you the truth, I think that parlor comment was just to scare a lot of people off from going. Because, the latte liberals get really, really scared. So, I want to see what happens. And I think there'll be something that will happen the day before where they'll have to cancel the outside normal inauguration that happens to hide the fact that nobody likes Joe. And they're going to hide those numbers. And I think there's going to be a lot less people there than you think.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to. Who does this guy inspire? Nobody. Let me get to read to some super chats really quick. There on the super raise. Actually, RW, who left this amazing comment, and it really sucks because the chat on Rokfin goes back to the bottom every single time, so it doesn't let me stay on that spot. They got to fix that feature. It says you are one of the few remaining outlets speaking truth to power. Speaking truth to power. It just went down again, son of a bitch. This is a great super ray. It says employing critical thinking and refusing to abandon reason while the sheep bleat the shit out of you. You guys are so vital. I know it's hard. You are suffering. It feels lonely, but we're here with you. Please know that. And thank you so much, guys. Joseph Waters also said the call is coming from inside the house. That's a old school movie that's out there. It was a horror movie. But what he's trying to say is the same thing we've been talking about when it comes to election integrity. This isn't fucking Russia. These are people within arm's length. These people within arm's length of us, and that's who's doing the cheating and the rigging. By the way, we got 48 people. We need 2 more. Joe Biden definitely knows about repeating a lie in an attempt to make it true. He's an expert at that. Says RW. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Joseph Waters, and thank you, RW, by saying we are one of the few remaining outlets speaking truth to power, employing critical thinking, and refusing to abandon reason while the sheep bleed shit out of you. You guys are so vital. I know it's hard. You are suffering. It feels lonely, but we're here with you. Please know that. I read it again because I want to read it in unison. We have over 48 watchers on Rokfin. We needed 50. That's cool. We have over $102 in tips up there. That is great. And on YouTube, we have over 500 people watching. We love you guys. Hit the like button, hit the thumbs up. I was called a bootlicker the other day for talking to a Trump supporter. We had an amazing conversation. The video shot to like 9,000 right away and just crawled. I think it's at 12,000. But it was one of those conversations with a Trump person who said, and his name was John from Kansas, we need to realize, all of us, that we got a lot more in common than we do have different. Sure, you'll always have people on the fringe, but we need to realize that we got more in common. And we do. We really, really, really do. And it's a shame that we're allowing the establishment, we're allowing the mainstream media, that we're allowing the military industrial complex, that we're allowing the intelligence department to divide us and keep us at each other's throats. Because that's how they maintain all the money and keep all the resources, is the more we're at each other's throat, the more they get to steal, pillage, and we don't look at them. The fact that we're talking about election integrity here and putting people on sanctions who oppose it and throwing out of Congress, rather than talking about the people in the food lines and the people who are going to be thrown out of their houses, or people who lost their small businesses, and it's people like the squad who are doing this, is disgusting.
2 things, fam. 2 things before you put up the last thing. We got 2 floor votes for impeachment. 2 before we ever got 1 for Medicare for all. Think about that for a second. You want to call me a right-wing fascist? You want to call me whatever? I was out there with a bullhorn for force the vote. So was Pasta, so was Johnny, so was literally the true indie media. They were all out there. And we were surrounded by cops really quickly. 2 floor votes for impeachment. Impeaching a man that's going to leave office in less than 2 weeks. 2 floor votes for that. In the middle of a fucking pandemic, in the middle of a fucking economic collapse, people are going to be evicted. All of these things are happening. And your priority is to do some political manipulation to impeach Donald Trump and then, of course, carry on this agenda of mass surveillance on the American people. And you wonder why people are upset and angry and doing all kinds of things, whether it was from the BLM, people going out and fighting for against police brutality in the police state, whether it was the Julian Assange folks saying, hey, don't extradite Julian Assange, fighting the police state, the security state, or whether it's these Trump supporters who feel they've been cheated because our election system, there's no transparency. So whether you agree with them or not, there's no fucking transparency in our election system. So what the hell are people, like, what the hell do people believe in? People are wanting to leave this country. We are ashamed to the world right now. And it wasn't just because of what those people did. It was because everybody knows something is fucking up. This doesn't make any sense. And the other thing I just wanted to point out was that Bernie Sanders was one of these people who in 2015 and 2016, he literally went to the South. He went to the Midwest. He went to the Appalachia, West Virginia, and he spoke to a lot of people who were rural, who were working class, who were white. And he said, you know what? I feel your pain. I know that neoliberalism screwed you. I know that the TPP screwed you. And I know that you need help, and this is why you're upset. And a lot of those people, this is why they were blaming immigrants. This is why they were blaming any outlier that they could blame on, because that's what they were feeling. They were suffering. And it's not excusable to be a racist, but it's also not excusable to be an elitist freaking Democrat and push these people to a point where they have no outlet and they see a man who promises this and that, a charlatan, but somebody that promised them all these things, he didn't deliver. But that's why many people voted for Donald Trump. That was why a lot of the working class voted for Donald Trump. And if you want to win the working class back, you don't do it by fucking vilifying them and putting them in a box and pretending they're all a bunch of fascists. That's not how you win them back. And Bernie Sanders said, back then, he said, not every Trump supporter is a racist. And he said, not every person who votes Republican is a racist. That I don't believe that. That's what he said. So if you want to call people who say that now a bunch of fascist racists, Bernie, I'm using your words against you. AOC, we're using your words against you. We're using the things you said against you. I haven't changed. You have. That's the difference.
Yeah. Dap the E-Vegan says, brace yourself, guys. Dark days are coming. We want to end the show, ladies and gentlemen. Fee, that was a great rant. We have over 557 people watching on the YouTubes. We have almost 49. Guys, we need one more. I want to see that 50
one
mark
more.
hit up,
Come
please.
on.
One more. But we also want to point out, fam, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't need Medicare for all. Why? Because we got GoFundMe. And our boy, Stephen Grumbine, contracted COVID. He's been in the hospital. We sent some love to him yesterday. He got back out to me today. He said, thank you guys so much. Convo Couch. I told him when he gets out, come on the show. We'll talk some MMT and how it kind of applies to what's going on. And maybe he can use some examples. It's something we always have to think about, because remember, money is something that somebody made up. However, it's there's a lot of ties to it, a lot of history to it. And people who want to kind of just blow up the system or kind of adapt the system we got to understand how money is made, how it's appropriated, and how it works. And Grumbine is a master at that. He was a big Bernie supporter, but he was also very critical of the squad, and he was kind of a forced to vote supporter of sorts. He's in the hospital. He needs help. And it's disgusting that we don't have Medicare for all. And let me just state this right away. I've said before I would settle for the public option, right? Now, I might be wrong about that, to say I settle or not. We can have a discussion. But I am for Medicare for all. I believe if we can drop bombs, that we can come up with money, leave some of that money behind, and use it for our people at home. I also believe there are so many people suffering on the streets that have mental illness, and they don't have the help, and they should get the help they deserve. A lot of those people are killed by the cops because they don't know, what I'm saying, they're not on the proper medication. I believe that mothers and fathers out there have to make a decision on how much insulin they can get their child or put food on the table, and that is disgusting. So even though I'm here saying I would settle for the public option, I'm not pushing for the public option. I am pushing for a healthcare system where everybody can have healthcare, because healthcare is a human right in this country. And it was a shame not seeing a lot of people at that protest this last week. So help Stephen Grumbine out. We'll get him on the show when he gets out of the hospital. Like the guy a lot. That's that. Fam, anything else?
No, like this is an example of why we need a Medicare for all, so people don't have to form GoFundMes for their friends to take care of their bills. I mean, this is disgusting, and
55 watching.
my very condolences to Steve. I hope he gets better. My best wishes. Pasta, I disagree with you. You know that on Medicare for All, there's no middle ground. I feel like there's no middle ground on censorship either. I'm the same way with Medicare for All. And, you know, I think that if you haven't noticed, you guys go check out AOC, the squad, and Bernie's rhetoric when it comes to healthcare now, because it's all about access to healthcare. The same shit we were calling out these establishment Democrats like Harris and Cory Booker and all of these folks. Now they're doing that whole pivot because they know that Joe Biden and these establishment Democrats are never going to give you healthcare for all, and they're not going to do it. You guys, we're going to have to demand it. And that force the vote movement was just the beginning of what we need. So more of that. We're going to continue speaking truth. All the haters can just just keep hating, man. Just keep hating. We're going to keep doing this thing. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. You can hate me all you want. You can tag me all you want. You can say all these things that are vile and awful. But all that's doing is saying way more about you than it is about me. And people are starting to see that. You know, we're growing, and we're getting so many of you that keep us going. It really means the world to us. So thank you guys so much.
We got a super chat contribution, super rate contribution. And fam, I raised my hand when it went up to 55. I'm sorry to interrupt you. 55 people on the Rokfin. We knew we can do it. Eric Ball tipped us. Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you to Johnny on the ones and twos. But I want to end the show. A shout out to our friend Melissa Michelson, if she's listening. I just want to say, I got me a fine wife. I got me a fiddle. When the sun comes up, I got cakes on the griddle. Life ain't nothing but a funny riddle. Thank God I'm a country boy. Convo out, everybody. We love you.
Somebody clip that up.